untrained, unmanned, and unprepared for combat.
How much are we spending, as far as you're concerned, with these diversity-type bureaucrats?
The numbers are $114 million on DEI programs. In some cases, we're paying these DEI bureaucrats over $200,000 a year, which is
$200,000 for a diversity person?
triple the mean of the household income in the United States.
Military experts testifying on Capitol Hill this week over growing concerns that the Pentagon is not focusing on preparing America's armed forces for future conflicts with top adversaries. Instead, critics say defense officials are distracted by implementing woke initiatives. Let's bring in Jeremy Hunt. He was a witness at yesterday's House hearing. You saw him there. He's a former U.S. Army captain, also serves as the chairman of Veterans on Duty. Jeremy, great to see you here.
Great to be with you.
Thanks for coming in. You said in part of your testimony to the committee yesterday, in addition to what we heard, quote, the Chinese Communist Party is building hypersonic missiles that our radar systems can barely detect, spying on Americans without consequence, and threatening the sovereignty of Taiwan. And, of course, threats remain from barbaric regimes in North Korea and Iran. In light of these rising threats, there is growing concern that our United States military simply isn't ready. Why isn't the military ready, in your estimation?
The biggest problem we're seeing right now is that we are so distracted. I mean, if you look at the numbers of just general accidents that could be completely avoidable are actually on the rise right now. I mean, just last year we saw one of our most really kind of prized submarines, the USS Connecticut, just completely plows into an underwater seamount, right? And it's just different accidents like that we're seeing constantly. Warships barely colliding into each other. So we have serious issues that we need to get back to. The military has to get back to the core mission, which is making sure that we are ready to deter, fight, and win our nation's wars.
And why have we gotten away from that core mission?
Well, we're overly distracted by all of these new kind of progressive political ideas. So, for example, when Secretary of Defense came into office, he of course, he mentioned China as a major threat, but then he says, but we also have other priorities like climate change. And the United States military presented a 50-page report about the need to redo the entire military fleet to make sure we are all about climate change, but we're not focusing on the core mission. And that can actually lead to a lot of serious issues when our soldiers are completely unprepared and untrained for the fight.
Here's how you put it yesterday in your testimony. You noted this. You said, quote, rather than focusing on new enemy battle tactics, the Navy recently mandated gender sensitivity training and released a video encouraging sailors to closely police the use of pronouns and everyday language, declaring that those who fail to comply aren't allies of their fellow sailors. One intelligence officer framed the problem as one of messaging and priorities. I know more about how to administer a transgender urinalysis, he said, than I do about the range of Chinese anti-ship missiles. A friend told me yesterday that a soldier came back from a tour of duty in Afghanistan, and the first thing that the soldier was instructed to do when he got back stateside was to go into a class about pronouns.
That's exactly right. And it's amazing, just yesterday at the hearing, you would have been shocked to see all the members of Congress just could not believe, some of the reports that we're sharing, because we have to get the truth out. Right now, if you look at the DEI bureaucracy has just exploded in the military. Now, when I was in, it used to be about equal opportunity. And I think a lot of us can agree on that. We believe that everyone should be able to serve in the military free of discrimination. And that program worked. And that was something that we all, could rally behind. But now there's a different camp that says, well, that's not enough. Now we need to go around policing pronouns. Now we need to go around and inject a completely divisive political rhetoric into some of the training materials. I'm in the camp that says, look, we need to make sure we have equal opportunity. That's important. We're going to focus on our mission. And if you have some of those bad apples in the military, some knuckleheads that are in violation of that, well, let the Uniform Code of Military Justice, let the UCMJ take care of those actions. But we're going to focus on our primary mission, which is making sure we can train, deter, fight, and win our nation's wars.
Ariel Durant famously said that a great civilization is not conquered from without until it has destroyed itself from within. If our military does not focus on the mission of fighting the next great battle with what looks like is going to be the most powerful adversary that we have faced in at least a generation, if not more, do we risk that?
We absolutely do. I mean, I think about, I've mentioned before how I'm finishing up my last semester at Yale Law School right now, and I look at
Couldn't find a good school to go to.
And I look at how we focus so much more on our differences and on our, it's kind of focus on hyper-individualism, that we've lost any type of commonality or any type of common purpose that brings us together. And that's probably why you see so many of the news reports coming out of Yale, just some of the division and the tribalism that's taking place. I don't want that for my United States military. Yeah. I don't want that for my alma mater at West Point. I don't want that in the officer corps in the United States Army or in the Marine Corps or in the Air Force or the Navy. We need to have a military that focuses on the common purpose, that brings people together, not hyper-focused on what's different about us. And I think that's the primary difference for those of us who are ready for a strong military, not one that kowtows to the progressive agenda.
West Point and Yale, classic overachiever. Jeremy, good to see you.
Thank you, John.
Thanks
I
for joining us.
appreciate it.
Appreciate it.